the other story on the front of the SMH, which has grabbed our attention. We are able to breathe. Massive international story, biggest international story in the world right now. Turning point as America believes its eyes. Derek Chauvin, the former police officer, filmed kneeling on the neck of black Minneapolis resident George Floyd last May, faces decades in jail after being found guilty of 2 counts of murder and 1 of manslaughter. Now there's villainized Floyd wiping away a tear as he speaks about Derek Chauvin's murder conviction, with Al Sharpton, the famous American activist, standing there beside him. Your thoughts, Caleb?
I think justice was served in this case. I mean, you know, when you watch the video of what was done to Floyd, it's just beyond comprehension. I mean, why would anyone, let alone a police officer, need to kneel in that position with their knee on someone's neck for minutes and minutes and minutes, when clearly they are in distress, clearly he could not breathe and ultimately died because of it. It was a truly shocking case. And, you know, George Floyd had a criminal history. You know, he was a scumbag, really. But no one deserves to die in circumstances like that. They can be the most hardened criminal in the world, and no one deserves to die at the hands of police in that manner, in such an inhumane manner. I think the right decision was made here. It sends a message that this kind of brutality will not be accepted, and I hope it drives some kind of change, because, of course, you know, we're not immune to stories of police brutality in the US, and no person ought to be walking the streets in fear that they might be targeted, victimised, or at risk of death at the hands of a police officer, or anyone else for that matter.
The West Australian splash, bet your house on WA. Why the Federal Treasurer says our boom will last. Josh Frydenberg says the state's economic future is bright, underpinned by strong growth across a variety of industries. And no doubt Frydenberg would be campaigning even this far out from the next election. Of course, we know that in a couple of weeks he will hand down a crucial, absolutely crucial budget, and you can expect that WA will certainly get its share of the spoils.
Indeed. In fact, I'm flying off to WA tomorrow. I've filled out my G2G pass, and they ask for about every last detail you can give them, including when you last went to the toilet and all this kind of thing. It's, you know, you seriously feel like you're flying into a police state. It's something quite extraordinary. But WA has played its hand over the last year. They very much sent a message that they're willing to play their own game. And when it comes to the next federal election, as I'm sure Josh Frydenberg knows, a few extra votes in WA, particularly when they look at what happened in the state election not a month ago, a few extra votes would not go astray if they're trying to form government. So pandering to WA, of course, makes political sense, but he's not wrong. I mean, WA is an economic powerhouse of this country, and we shouldn't forget that. Sometimes WA likes to lord it over us and remind us of how economically powerful they are. But in terms of GST revenue to the country, etc., they are a very important piece of the puzzle. So it makes absolute sense that the Treasurer would be trying to lift them up and let them know that in terms of this country's economic story, they are a major part of it.
The Fin Review, PM's global tech fix for emissions. The Morrison government will spend almost $570 million, Caleb, on attempts to collaborate with other nations to commercialise low emissions technologies with the aim of making a meaningful difference to climate change across the globe. Now, there are targets that are being set at the moment. I mean, the whole China, renewables target, zero emissions by 2060 is fanciful, but a country of our size, 25 million, although we do have a reliance on coal-fired power, clearly the Prime Minister sees this as an issue that's worth fighting for.
Look, it'll be much easier for us to reach net zero emissions than it will a place like China, and we should have no illusions about the fact that China can get up and with all this bluster and tell us what they're going to do, and it's not actually going to happen. But I always come back to, when it comes to climate change and doing things that might mitigate climate change, in the front of our minds needs to be whether what we do is economically advantageous to our country. We could very easily decide we want to have net zero emissions by 2030 or something, and we'll shut down all the coal-fired power plants and we'll have no power, and all the bills will go up astronomically, and we'll all, live in abject poverty. We could do that if we wanted to do it, but there's no good reason to. You cannot sell your own people up the creek. Now, if what Scott Morrison is looking at is a system whereby we invest in technology that has the benefit of creating jobs and creating industry at the same time as perhaps working towards this target, that would make sense. We have to do things in an economically rational manner. This is what Bjorn Lomborg has been telling us for quite some time, and was hounded out of Australian universities for telling us, was there is nothing wrong with moving towards renewable energy and things that might benefit the environment, but we can't do it at the expense of our own people, and we can't do it at the expense of our own economy. So I must say this proposal intrigues me, and I must look into it further, because if what they're working towards is creating industry and jobs and products and technology, that would not seem an altogether stupid way to go about achieving a target.